I think it's interesting that Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and this quarterback carousel has come to essentially a pause in free agency, and I don't know why. Like, what's keeping Pittsburgh from signing somebody? What's keeping Aaron Rodgers from signing anywhere?
Aaron Rodgers is waiting to see if the Vikings want him or not.
Yep.
And the Steelers and the Giants have to wait for him to see. It's like a bad episode of The Bachelor. Like, he's got 3 finalists, and he's got the one that he's really in love with the idea, and he's keeping the other 2 on standby and in case the Vikings decide, you know what, I don't want to be on the show anymore. We're going to go with J.J. McCarthy. We're going to believe in young love instead of 41-year-old love. It's like the Golden Bachelor for quarterbacks between him and Russell Wilson. So I assume Russell Wilson ultimately will be the one who ends up with the Giants because the Steelers don't want him back, apparently. So the Steelers are in a holding pattern because the Vikings are in a holding pattern because they're putting Aaron Rodgers, who's really the one holding everything up. Tausch, does that sound like a pretty good description of what's happening?
Well, listening to Diana Rossini, who has been pretty much on it when it comes to the Rodgers, the Jets stuff, and I don't know if she's obviously got a good source somewhere there, even though Rodgers would disagree. Yeah, I think the storyline, I think Aaron Rodgers wanted to play for the Jets. It didn't work. The Jets decided to go in a different direction. So now I thought that he would probably think hard about retiring if the right scenario, like to me, going to play for the Giants doesn't make any sense. They're not going to win. You're going to end up, do you want to redo what you just saw with the Jets, but with less talent? Because that's where they're at. Pittsburgh makes some sense, but that's you're playing outdoors. Minnesota makes all the sense in the world because they have great wideouts. They have a good group, good coaching, a team that was close to, winning the division, having the best record in football. So they're right there. And it would finish that career arc, and he could shove it up Green Bay's keister. So when you factor all those things in, I'm guessing that's the most intriguing to him. And it tells you a lot that Minnesota is really hemming and hawing, and we don't know. They have not showed any of their cards. So obviously Aaron feels like there's a chance to have a chance to go there, or he would move along and say it's going to be Pittsburgh. The fact that there's some uncertainty makes me think Minnesota is thinking about it. And then all the reports this weekend were it's up to O'Connell. We're leaving the quarterback decision-making up to O'Connell. And then yesterday you heard that Joe Flacco is potentially that veteran that could go up to Minnesota. So it has grinded to a halt. And you have to think, the legal signing isn't even a week in. A lot of action. So for everybody that's saying, you got to move, and Mike Florio saying how selfish it is, this is a pretty big decision. And if Aaron Rodgers can take his time and the Giants and Steelers are not pushing, which I would, if I was them, I'd say you're either in or you're out. That would be the way you want to do it. He's not, and they're not. So probably my guess is he ends up going to Pittsburgh. That would be the guess that makes the most sense. But if Minnesota gives him that sliver, I think he runs with it and takes it. But I think Minnesota at some point is probably going to look at this and say, is this juice going to be worth the squeeze? I hope it is, because I think from a drama standpoint, storyline standpoint, and plus I think that from Green Bay standpoint, I don't think they're afraid of that. I think they were afraid of it with Favre. I don't think – are Packer fans afraid of Aaron Rodgers going to Minnesota? I don't think so.
I would be afraid of it only, and again, I don't want to tell fans how to feel, but if they don't think J.J. McCarthy's ready, like if it's his knee.
Well, how would they think? How would they think that he is?
Yeah, again, I don't know, but my point is if I'm Jeff Hafley, if I'm a Packers fan, I want them playing the inexperienced quarterback, right? I mean, it's great that they have all these weapons, but we saw the growing pains.
Jason, how good do you think Jeff Hafley thinks Aaron Rodgers with that Minnesota Vikings offense is going to be? Are they afraid of him?
I think if their offensive line is improved, and they obviously invested in that, and they can protect him, and you look at the weaponry that he has at his disposal, I mean, You can say Jamar Chase is the best wide receiver in football now. You can say Justin Jefferson is. But beyond Justin Jefferson, they've got Jordan Addison. They've got a really good tight end in Hawkinson, who will be better this year now that he's more than a year removed from his ACL tear. I think I'm looking at that team going, I hope they start J.J. McCarthy because his growing pains will make those weapons less effective.
Jesse, are you scared as a Packer fan? Let's poll this. I don't know how you want to word it without you're going to get crushed because people are sick of Aaron Rodgers, the narrative.
But, we'll post it from the show account.
Yeah, I don't think Packer fans, it's a different vibe. I think most Packer fans are looking at this and saying, yeah, Rodgers is not the Rodgers we saw in 2021, and maybe he's more 22 than he is 2021. But I do think this gives Minnesota a much better chance to win big this coming season. It's very similar to when we had the Rodgers-Favre transition where we knew Rodgers was ready. I think it feel a lot better because Rodgers played and was in the system for longer than J.J. McCarthy played a couple of preseason games. They have no idea. They have no idea how he's going to play. None. So to roll the dice with a roster that you're going all in on, and plus now they're moving money around in anticipation of something, the breadcrumbs are starting to lead you to think this is more of an option than I think all of us had thought when the regular season ended and we got into this season. I think Minnesota is looking at it and saying we have a chance to we're built. This roster is locked and loaded, and if they can get Rodgers on a 1-year, smaller deal, I think they're going to be really intrigued by that.
And I do think they would be getting a motivated player, and they would also be getting a guy.
He was as motivated as he could have possibly been last year, and it just I think that narrative.
Well, I think he's still motivated. No. I think he's still motivated, and I would also say that I think we forgot, much like we did in 2022 when he played with a broken thumb, and Brett Favre was celebrated, and everyone else looked at Rodgers and said, he's terrible. There was no grace for playing with a broken thumb on your throwing hand. I think the fact that the guy was playing after rupturing his Achilles the previous season, I think that was lost on some. I would be willing to bet that he will be he's not going to be Lamar Jackson, but I'm guessing he will be, even at the ripe old age of 41, a little more mobile than he appeared to be this past season.
I don't know, man. I think when you looked at how he moved at the end of his time in Green Bay pre-Achilles, he was getting tracked down by guys he never used to get tracked down by. You add 2 or 3 more years with an Achilles rupture, he's going to be a pocket guy. He is no longer get out of the pocket, expand, and run play.
No, but he's got to be able to move in the pocket, and I didn't think it looked like he did that as well as he used to.
And you think another year is going to help him with that?
I think a greater healing in his